So the reason is that I think looking at the data that we have, you would find it for the UK as a whole, for Wales, or for the regions of England, and for Scotland, you would find it quite hard to say, well, if I look at, say, the northeast, Yorkshire and Humberside, even the northwest, and say, well, there's a really strong case for having a differential policy, a different, a more or less attractive, a more or less liberal attitude, a lower salary threshold, for example, for Wales than there is of those regions. It would be much easier just to point at the map and say, actually, there's a pretty good case for having a higher salary threshold than London relative to everywhere else. That case, I think you could make from an economic point of view. Of course, the political situation of Wales, Scotland, and say, the Northeast are quite different, and there may well be political reasons why, just as there are for things like tax or the provision of services, why you might argue that regardless of whether or not there's an economic case for it, there is a case for saying, well, Wales as a political entity should be able to set its own policy on X or Y, and X or Y includes, for various purposes, immigration policy. But I think that's different from saying, if you look at the economics, there's a really good case for saying, we should have a more liberal system, say, in Wales than much of the rest of England. It's hard to do that from the data. You can't do that on the basis of average salaries. That really doesn't stack up. It's hard, at least on the data that is available, to see that a strong case on a sort of sector or occupational level either. Again, the sorts of sectors and occupations in Wales that have reasonably high levels of dependence on migrants, especially EU migrants, are not dissimilar to the ones that are. That's for its case. That's for much of the rest of England.